All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's Mr. G. We're going to record a quick video here. We are talking about selections this week. When we look at images, and sometimes we have in our nomenclature nowadays, we say, boy, that image looks photoshopped. A lot of times we mean that what we're trying to say is that it has been manipulated in some way. Somebody has altered an image where you're not quite sure if it is realistic or if it's been altered. So we've learned how to make selections and move things around like we did with our checkers, and we moved them around. But there's a few other things that we need to learn. We're going to start taking slow steps toward those things on making believable images as we play with our photo editing here. Okay, so we're starting with our selection here. So if we are going to select our flower here, I've got our flower image here, and we are going to go ahead and manipulate this flower. We're going to go ahead and move a couple around and see what we can do. But first we need to select this nice flower here. You notice it's pink, it's very subtle. It's got a nice green background it's on. Things that are in contrast by color or value to what they're sitting behind are easier to select. So a black square on a white background is going to be easier to select than a green apple on a green tablecloth, if you follow my drift there. So if we're going to select this out here, so we've got this nice pink, it's on the green background, we've got our selection tools. So again, we got our different options here. So we have to decide what we're doing and what's going to be the best way to select it. So we got our marquee tool here. We could use our marquee tool. Square is obviously not going to work. We could try to do the round here, and we could make a selection where we went in here and got most of our flower, and we can move it and then start adding to it. We go up here and we can make sure we had add to selection selected, and we could start just taking kind of bites out of it, but it really is not the best tool for getting this done. So we could do it, but it'd be a very lengthy process, and there are faster ways that we can try and get this done. So let's look at some other tools. So we could also come in here, we could use one of our lasso tools. We've got the straight lasso tool, and we could zoom in here, and we could go in and we could start with our selection tool, and again, add to the selection and start drawing along the edge. And just taking, again, just some bites out of it. But again, that's going to be pretty slow going. But it is possible. And obviously we can go right down to the pixel. So we could get a super accurate selection by going right in here and going on every individual pixel like that. But again, that would be a very lengthy process to do that. So we got our other tools here too. We could also go to our polygon lasso selection tool again, and we add it, and we could just click along the edge, and we can make tiny short lines, adjusting as we go. When you make a mistake, you can just push Command Z. My pixeler's acting a little weird here. It's been acting a little wonky all day long. So we could do that, but again, this is not the best tool. There is the curvature Bezier tool here, which, let's go over to an area. Let's go ahead and clear the selection here. We will get our tool again here. Escape, escape, escape. Let's try that one more time. Get our Bezier tool here. And we could go and start pulling up and start going around the edge here. And again, we could be very accurate and take our time. But again, that is going to take us some time to do to get this all in. But it's not a terrible option. It's very doable, just more lengthy. So let's look at a different option. Let's go ahead and get out of that. And then we also have the magnetic tool, which I don't advocate it off because I don't think it works very well. Let's actually get out of here because it's going to be a big old mess here. The way the magnetic tool works is it's supposed to, as I go along, select in and around my object. And it does a pretty good job until it gets confused, and you got to be really careful with it. And you can see it's missing some spaces and jumping up here and there. And I got to kind of move really slow with it. So it doesn't work, but it's kind of wonky, and I don't recommend using it, and I don't use it a whole lot. So if you really like it, you're welcome to use it, but I don't find it terribly helpful. As long as you kind of keep your circle in there, it does a pretty good job. But like again, it's slow and it's wonky. So as I said, I don't use that tool a whole lot either. So let's go over and try a different tool. Let's go ahead and zoom all the way out here again. We're going to go Command D, make sure that we have nothing selected here, or go to Select, Deselect. Let's try our Magic Wand tool. Now the way the Magic Wand tool goes, it selects colors by pixels. So pixels that are next to each other that are similar, it's going to grab those all together. So this is a predominantly pink flower here. So if we start clicking on here, it grabs a good part of the flower already. And as long as we go in here and we click Add to Selection, we can start clicking, and it's going to get more and more information as we go along. And you can see that it already is picking up that edge very well all the way around. Now we got a little too much there, so we can go Command Z, Command Z. Not going to get that. We might have to go and manually do that. But like we said, most of the time with your selection tools, you are going to be using more than one selection tool to get an accurate selection. Okay? If you are not patient, you're not going to have a believable selection. And that's what this kind of lesson and stepping forth is all about. So I'm just going to get my lasso tool here and just kind of lasso this up here in the middle rather than go and swinging my magic wand around. It's just a little easier just to go and lasso it all together. Okay, we're going to zoom in just a little bit here, and we'll go down to the bottom here and get this area here. So again, lasso tool, add to selection. We're just going to go and draw up these last few places that we missed. Remember that lasso tool will make a straight line, so use that to your advantage. So I can stop right there. I don't need that edge because I'm going to make a copy of it. See if there's any other places. Looks like I got a pretty good selection here. And I got a little extra of this bud here, so we'll go and we'll get rid of that. So we're going to switch to remove from selection anything we want to remove. And we will just remove that little bit there. And we'll go ahead and kick this off right here too. All right, so there we go. We've got our selection. Now, with our selection, what can we do? Let's go ahead and duplicate our flower, okay? So we're on the same layer, we're on this layer, so we're gonna go ahead and push Command C to make a copy. You saw the copy come up, and we're hit Command V to paste. You can also go up here to your edit and cut, copy, clear, and paste right there as well. So now I have a copy. You notice it got put on its own layer. So now I can take my flower and I can take my copy over here, okay? Now, when you make copies of things, if you want them not to look photoshopped, a lot of times you need to alter them a little bit. Because if we have 5 things that are exactly the same, it sticks out to our eye that say, hey, that's kind of unnatural to have 5 flowers that are exactly the same, okay? So if you do things like adjust the size a little bit, adjust the rotation a little bit, move that around a little bit, okay? So we'll just kind of tuck this guy right in over here. We don't want to rotate him too much because there is light coming in, and we don't want it to be the opposite of the way the light's coming in. So if we turned it upside down, it would look kind of odd. But that is a pretty good there, and we kind of click off and we look at it, and that looks pretty good to me. All right, so let's go ahead and put another flower in, and we'll put one over here, and we'll change it a different way. Okay, so let's go ahead and we can just push Command V to paste because we've already got our flower, and it'll paste another one for us. So we have this one. So let's go ahead and we can distort this one here. Okay, so let's distort this one. We'll go in here into edit and we'll go down to distort. Okay, and what we can do, we can flip them. Okay, so we could take it and we could flip it the other way, and we've got that. Then we can rotate it to change it. So there's one way, and we could also go in here, like I said, and we can distort our image, and we can actually take it and flip it in on itself. Gotta get up here so I can see around my advertisement. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to distort my image, and I am going to flip it on itself by just pulling my handles over top of them, and think of it like turning a sheet of paper over. Okay, and that little bit of disruption is going to be enough to differentiate it from the other flower. Okay, and then we can push return to commit that, rotate it a little bit, push it back. All right, so now we got 3 flowers. We'll hold it just like that. Now I'm going to put one more flower, and I'm going to put it up here in this area back here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to push Command V one more time. I'll paste that. This one's going to be in the background, so I'm going to make it much smaller. And I'm going to take it in the background here. Okay, I'm going to kind of squish it just a little bit to turn it just a little bit. And then we'll have that flower tucked right back here. Okay, now that flower is right up here that we've got. Now, when we look at our image and kind of back up and look, when I look at these flowers that are in the background here, they are out of focus, okay? Much like this bud is here. So the further things are away from us, the further they are out of focus, and they start to lose color a little bit. They get a little bit duller the further things are away from us, okay? Think about looking off into the horizon like a mountain or something. The further away it looks kind of hazy. It's because, you know, there's atmosphere in between us and the object that starts to affect our vision. So I need this to be a little duller, and I need to be out of focus. So how could I make it out of focus? Okay. Well, I've got my, if you remember, we have our blur, sharpen, and smudge tool here. So we can blur, we can sharpen, smudge. Let's go ahead and I'll make this really big just so you can see it here. Let's go much bigger. And we'll go like that. So I can go here and I can just kind of click. And I generally just kind of click a little bit because I don't want this thing to completely be obliterated like this. They're not that far off, but about out of focus as this is here. Okay. So I'll just kind of click on it until I feel like it is out of focus enough. And it happens slowly. You can turn your strength up. This is at 40%. But if you turn it all the way up to like 100%, say, and I go in here, you'll see that it blurs much faster. Actually, it's not blurring at all because I'm on the wrong layer, Mr. G. Let's try that again. But again, when you're on 100%, you'll see that it blurs way faster, and we don't want to blur that much that quickly. You'll also see that I get like a white edge around the edge, so that's blurring the actual background, because remember, once we turn this off, there's nothing behind this, okay? So it's got no information to blur it with, so it just is adding white because there's no other pixels for it to blur on the edge, okay? So let's go and undo all that. And we will go ahead and we'll just delete that guy because he's obliterated. We'll hit Command V again to paste. We'll get another flower here. Again, we'll take him down, put him back here, and we'll rotate him. So now when, get my zoom to work here. I go in here and I want to blur this guy. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to set him on that background so that I can blur him with the background a little bit so he won't look so out of place. So I'm going to take this flower, I'm going to drag it down, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop it with the merge down button. So now that flower is on the background. So when I click that, I can come in here with my blur tool, and I can just very lightly, let's turn our strength way down here. We can just kind of blur it a little bit, and it'll blur with the outline, and it won't have that outline on the back. Okay, then you kind of back up every once in a while, and that's not bad right there. That might be enough right as it is to be out of focus. Okay, now the other thing we can do, we can use our sponge tool here, and we can desaturate a little bit to take some of that color away. So again, I go in here, I'm gonna make my brush kind of big, I'm gonna take my strength up a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing, about 60% there. And we got vibrance, saturation. Okay, so we're gonna go with, you could go vibrance or saturation. They're very similar. We're going to go saturation here, and we're going to decrease it because we want to just make it a little less pink than these guys are here. So I'm just going to kind of go there, and it's just going to make it just a little bit grayer and duller than these guys are right there. So there's 3 clicks, and that looks pretty good to me like it is. Okay, so now this gives the idea in that we don't have a photograph that looks terribly photoshopped, even though we took our one flower and we reproduced it and made 4 flowers. Okay, so that's our lesson for today. So take your image, make it look just like this one, and then save it as a JPEG, and then save a second copy as a PXD file so that you can keep it and work on it if you need to go back into it. Okay, turn in your JPEG into your Google Classroom. Have a super day, and we'll talk to you soon.